Oxford from the inside. The good, the bad, but always the truth.
Hello, my name's Olviya, my pronouns are they, she, and welcome back to Oxford from the Inside. Today we are joined by a new guest, Grace. Would you like to introduce yourself, Grace?
Hello, I'm Grace. My pronouns are she, her. I think that's the right way around. And I have ASD, which is an autism spectrum disorder or condition, depending on how you want to say it. More commonly known, I've got level 1, so it's more commonly known as Asperger's, although that term is being phased out. Just to tell you what I have. And always asked me to talk about my experiences of being a student at Oxford with ASD.
Thank you very much, Grace. I really appreciate that. Just for clarification, first of all, what college and subject do you do?
I'm at Trinity College and I do chemistry.
Exciting stuff. And then for our students who are a little bit unfamiliar, can you kind of like give us a general overview of what ASD is, what it's like?
Okay, so ASD is, I think they say it's a, sorry, no, it's ASD is basically it's a neurotype. So you've got what we normally refer to as neurotypical, which is a large percent of the population, and then you've got autism, which is one of the other neurotypes, which they think about 1 in 100 people are somewhere on this autism spectrum. So that's generally what it is, and generally it affects how you see the world. You see it slightly differently, and for me personally it majorly affects my socializing skills and being able to form and maintain connections with other people. So quite often with autism, it's a sensory sort of processing disorder, so loud noises might seem more irritating or louder, and the same thing, some people have issues with bright lights or different textures and stuff like that. So quite often that's why you see autistic people stimming, which is sort of like a hand flap or a rocking. That's the most common ones, but there's lots of different ones, and there's no one way to be autistic, obviously. But that's generally a big overview of it. I probably missed things out, but like I said, it's a very broad neurotype. I hope that clears it out. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for that, Grace. So today we're just going to be talking about what basically being a student is like with ASD, just kind of like in general and in Oxford. So I thought we started at the very beginning. Applying for university as a student with ASD, how would you say it differs to applying as a neurotypical student?
I'm not sure. I'm just trying to talk about my own experience, because I was only diagnosed with autism when I was 16, almost 17. So that's about 2-3 years ago. So it was I think it's probably different to me opposed to somebody who was had a fairly early childhood diagnosis, because the only way that it sort of affected me was the fact that I had to I didn't have to, but I put in the box where is there any disabilities or different disorders or whatever. I put, I have ASD, and that was the only sort of difference, I think, between me and my neurotypical classmates who were also applying. So there wasn't any sort of difference, I don't think. That was just about it, really.
And then when you were thinking about choosing unis or just kind of like what kind of uni you wanted to go to, what were your priorities? Would you say it was different, or would you say it was generally just, yes, somewhere, a room, a good
I would
course?
say for me it was no different. My priorities were, what do I want to study? Is this the best place for studying it? There wasn't much of I didn't let it affect it at all, so there was no difference.
That's quite nice to hear, because at least it kind of like sharing the same experiences as kind of like, do all get a decent room at university, which was definitely one of the things, was I didn't want to be in a very small cramped room in a terrible location. But yeah, how's your experience being studying at Oxford? You've completed first year. How would you say it was?
It's been, I think somebody asked me this and I said the key word has been interesting. It's been very interesting, and in any sort of sense of the word, very different, obviously. And it's been strange having to do it in a pandemic. And I found the first term probably the hardest out of all of the terms, purely because the settling in sort of type thing, I found it really hard. It took me several weeks to settle in, but luckily, because I had to go to a different college opposed to my secondary school, I knew that was going to happen. So I know there are some people out there with autism who probably would have freaked out a lot suddenly being in this new situation, because I think that's when another place where my autism sort of really affects me is that I'm not very great with new situations, like, you know, moving to university and everything like that. So I found that really sort of hard, and actually trying to meet new people and have a conversation and work out where people were going to be so I could meet them and try and find friends and stuff like that. And like, to know, I'm not blaming anybody else, obviously there's no blame. I'm not saying, oh, everybody else was horrible, because everybody was lovely. Everybody I met was so nice and, you know, made an effort to try and talk to me and stuff like that. It's just something that I've always struggled with, and I always will. And I don't think the pandemic helped, obviously, with everybody with their social skills. It made everybody a bit like, but yeah, so that was the main sort of thing. Trying to remember what the question was now, but yeah, so that was the biggest challenge I definitely had, just trying to get myself across to people in those, you know, first few weeks and stuff. But definitely as the year went on, it became a lot more easier. I found different people, met new friends, you know, put myself out there a bit, and it was great. You know, as soon as things started opening up in the last term, I had a little bit of a blast, because, you know, there were suddenly these sort of structured meetings that I could go to and meet people and, yeah, have a chat, which is nice, because although, you know, I do quite like being on my own and I'm happy on my own, it's nice to actually talk to people first at times. Definitely, I do appreciate other people's company.
Yeah, I think the pandemic's made us all very lonely and very isolated. I can, like, even social situations were very difficult. But yeah, I think everyone found first term dreadful, didn't they? So I'm very glad to hear that it's improved massively for you, even if chemistry is hard and terrible and horrible. I wouldn't never understand why we want to do it. Speaking of chemistry, studying, would you say the department's been very accommodating of your needs if you had any? Did you find it all right working online, working from home?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think everybody's been great, and I'm not sure who in the department or where in the department knows about my diagnosis or anything, because the way I sort of see it, I don't like telling everybody. It's a very personal thing to me, so I don't broadcast it. I don't walk into the classroom or whatever and go, I'm Grace, I have ASD, because I don't see that. I don't, you know, personally for me, that is not the thing to do. So I try to get on like everybody else does, obviously. But yeah, I've definitely enjoyed in person more than online. I know that might sound strange for some people, but it's just much easier. And I mean, all of the people who at Trinity, all the chemists who I'm with, they are all great and they're all really nice, and they've all, you know, the ones that I've told have really sort of, you know, been really nice and made an effort. And I'm going to tell you this story, because I'm sure I've told you this before, but I remember in one lab session, one of the chemists standing next to me, we were watching something dissolve, and he turns to me and goes, "This is so fun," and I have no clue that he's kidding or anything like that, because I just did not pick up on the social cues or anything. I go, "Yeah, no, it is quite fun," and he goes, "Oh, so fun." I'm like, "Yeah," and then he says it a third time, and then I go, "You're joking, aren't you?" And he goes, "Yeah, I am." And I'd only told him that I was autistic I think a couple of weeks before, something or other, but like a couple of weeks later he made a joke, and then he turned to me and went, "Oh, by the way, that was a joke." And that was so nice. It's the first time anybody had ever really done that to me. And I just, you know, as it does, it just makes your heart sing when somebody just doesn't have to, but they do make an effort to say that it's a joke, which was really nice. I'm just saying, you know, the people who I know that I've told have always been lovely about it. I've never had any trouble.
Yeah, I find that to be really nice. I don't know if I sort of just Trinity or just kind of like in general, but like for me as a deaf person, I always find it really daunting telling people I'm deaf, like, because that comes with like a whole load of issues. Will people treat me differently? Am I going to be perceived differently? And I think it was just really nice because everyone has been very, very understanding of it. Everyone's really made an effort to kind of like remember, oh, Olviya needs subtitles, oh, Olviya needs people facing her, all that kind of stuff. So I feel like the student community is very understanding of a lot of disabilities and chronic illness and conditions and all that stuff. And a lot of students do make an effort to try and accommodate for people where possible. I think I found it to be quite a welcoming community.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. I think even if people don't know exactly what might make you a little bit different, a little bit weird in my case, they're all just nice, aren't they? And they all try and talk to you, which is, you know, a lovely thing to go into, you know, not feel like, you know, nobody's going to say anything horrible to you if you suddenly, you know, come out with something a bit weird, which is great.
I'm really glad that's the case, and I'm really glad that Oxford's just been really nice. Well, the people have been really nice. And then so that's the department side. What about college side? More like accommodation, that kind of stuff. How was your experience with that?
Well, the accommodation has been, I had a really nice room, but my only issue was with it that it was a room right on Broad Street, which was fine for the first sort of when everybody was sort of in lockdown, and then as lockdown eased and more people were walking past my room, it got really sort of noisy, and I found that really sort of difficult to deal with, you know. And I got noise cancelling headphones over the holidays, which was really good for me. But you know, I think I would have appreciated it if they had put me in a place that had been a bit quieter, because it really did become a significant couple of occasions where I was just there like, it was driving me nuts. And it sounds odd, I think, to some people that, you know, just people walking past can, you know, really grate you so much that you're like, you know, you just want to get out, or you just want to pull your hair out or something or other. But it really did, and it annoyed me slightly because when I was applying in the application process, obviously had to go through their disabled student service and everything like that, and they said sometimes, is there anything you want? And whatever, every single time that I specified, I said I just want to be in a quiet place. And you know, every single email, and at one point there was a confusion where they're like, oh, you need a separate room for exams. I'm like, no, happy to be in the exam hall because it's quiet, but just for accommodation and all that, put me somewhere quiet. And I spoke to them, and I spoke to, they do this buddy system at Trinity, which is great, you know, so you can talk to somebody who's sort of already done it before you, which is great. And they said, check. So I checked, and I said, oh, how about this staircase? Am I in this staircase? Because somebody said it was quite quiet, and they said, oh no, not because it's near a road. And then it didn't make much sense to me, the fact that then they went and put me on Broad Street, which was the noisiest road almost. So that was a little bit probably the only sort of irritation that I had in the whole of, you know, Trinity and Oxford and everything like that, which just annoyed me, but it just irritated me because, you know, it was another sort of sensory stimulus that I really didn't need at times, and I was just I was stressed enough with getting the work done, and it was just, can't do it because somebody's walking past or somebody's having a conversation outside my window. So that's the only sort of complaint I think really that I ever had. But yeah, I don't think it clocks on a lot of people's radars that actually just somebody talking can really, really make it hard to concentrate or do anything.
Yeah, I think it's like it's quite hard navigating being a student with disability at Oxford, because people try to be accommodating, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. I found out, for me personally, COVID's had a bit of an impact on getting stuff sorted. There's been a lot of delays and stuff. There's been a lot of frustration and stuff. And I think it's really important to kind of like emphasize that Oxford isn't perfect. It's still got a long way to go in terms of accommodating for different disabilities. But I think your experience really detail how important it is that disability should be treated to the individual rather than just kind of like a blanket situation where they like group people with similar disabilities and give them the same accommodations and presume that's enough for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Yeah, no, it just would have been nice if somebody had looked into the emails where they were trying to offer me other stuff, and the only thing I'd said was somewhere quiet. And I don't know whether, I know it's tricky, and it was tricky because there was more students this year, but you know, it would have been nice if somebody had just gone, okay, we won't put her on ground floor Broad Street. Despite how pretty the view was.
It's a pretty place.
Yeah, unnecessary sensory stimulus, which is not great.
It's really good. So like now reflecting on like your first year as a student, obviously results day is coming very, very soon. Exciting stuff. What would your advice be to incoming students with ASD who are maybe a little bit nervous about Oxford or a little bit scared about what it's going to be like for them in a new environment?
I think I'd say just don't worry, because there are people who you can talk to. There are the there are the welfare people who are, you know, here to talk to you and field, you know, your questions and stuff like that. And that was probably something I didn't do too well, actually, just emailing somebody about a problem. And there were some great student listeners, I think they're called, I can't quite remember, but I spoke to one of them and it made a world of difference just to be able to speak to people. So there are people about if you have, you know, an issue, or you just need to talk to somebody, or you feel sort of like lonely. And hopefully with things there being less restrictions, we'll still be able to have in-person welfare tea, and that is one thing I would really recommend to anybody with ASD. I know it can be really daunting having to walk into a room or something other where everybody's there and try and, you know, talk to it. And I personally have chickened out several times. I've got there and gone nope and gone back. But as soon as you start doing it, it's great, because you just talk to somebody, it doesn't matter who, and the welfare reps are lovely, they will just talk to you, and it's a really good, you know, way to get in that social interaction, which is really important, you know, when you can become quite isolated with the whole struggling with socialness. So that's what I'd say. And I just say, really don't worry if you get here and like have a major sort of freak out meltdown thing, because it's a huge change and it's kind of expected. And I know it's not fun to think, oh, I'm going to get there and have a meltdown, because meltdowns are horrible, but it's something that you've almost got to, well, I've found for myself at least, and I'm sure there are some people who will resonate with that, you've literally just got to kind of go, okay, there's going to be a week where I might have loads of meltdowns because it's so different, and that's just it, but I will come out the other side and things will start to get better and I'll actually start to enjoy my time here.
Progress is always progress, and I think just sometimes time is all you need to kind of like really help, but also kind of like stand your ground and make sure you get what you need, really. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned, is that if there's something you need, you've got to stand your ground and you've got to make it clear and be like, I need this, you have to provide me with this, and that's how I'm going to be able to help cope and like progress at Oxford. And then for us neurotypicals as well, obviously as a neurotypical I have absolutely no real experience of being neurodivergent, and I can never relate to you, and I can never relate to anyone else with ASD or any sort of neurodivergent disorder. So for us neurotypicals, how can we help in order to make people with ASD, people like you, feel more welcome at Oxford and just kind of like help you into our environments?
I think it's just sort of the general thing. Like I say, most people are lovely. Most people don't have any issue with anything like that, whether they know or not. And I think it's just a case of, you know, if somebody starts, I don't know, maybe shaking their shoulders up and down or something like that, or won't meet your eye, they're not doing it because they're trying to make you uncomfortable, you know, because, you know, especially I think with the eye contact, a lot of people like eye contact and a lot of people with ASD don't like eye contact, and it's sort of a case of we're not doing it to make you uncomfortable, it's just it's really uncomfortable to make eye contact that way. That's I suppose a big thing. But yeah, I don't know, if somebody is stimming in some way, don't, you know, sort of, I don't know, don't sort of stare, I suppose, don't make it a big issue. And most people don't. I'm not saying that there's lots of people do. I've never really met anybody who's been horrible or made it an issue because you do something a bit that's not expected. So that's just it, you know. We might do something that's a bit unexpected, but we're not doing it to try and make you feel awkward or uncomfortable. And, you know, if you know, most of us I think are fairly happy with being asked a question. So if you, I'm so sorry, my mum's just coming, but if you're like, oh, are you okay, is there something, you know, why are you doing that, just sort of ask, you know, because we're probably not doing it to make you feel uncomfortable. You know, most of us are happy with questions, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
If there's anything we can do almost to, it's a two-way street, it's a meet in the middle. So if there's anything that we can do for the neurotypicals of the world, saying that obviously in a very broad way, then, you know, we're happy to meet you all in the middle.
Compromise and open conversation, I think it's the best way to kind of like understand all different types of people and help us move forward into a society where we can be more equal and we can be all treated as equal, where all our needs are met. And we've still got a long way to go, but hopefully we're inching there bit by bit.
Definitely. Well, like I say, most people are amazing, most people are lovely. I've never had an issue personally, I'm sure other people have, but, you know, I've never met anybody who's told me, you know, stop doing that. Which is great.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. That's good to hear that.
Yeah.
Do you have
Most of the
any?
Oxford are lovely.
And finally, do you have any words of advice for people who are nervously anticipating results day, waiting to find out if you got into Oxford?
I don't know, just don't beat yourself up either way. That's what I say. It's very easy to beat yourself up, but don't beat yourself up either way. Because you're a brilliant person, whoever you are, and it doesn't, you know, there are other ways to do whatever you want to do with your life. So don't beat yourself up if it doesn't work. And if it does, then well done. You know.
Very, very solid words there. Grace, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your experiences. Really, really appreciate it today. And then to all of our listeners, thank you so much for listening to us. And then obviously, if you want to find out more about Oxford from the Inside, do follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. But other than that, hope you're having a good day. Goodbye.
All right, thank you.